many of the people here were present already in Paris in the first meeting we did in November 1.5 years ago, more or less. And we started debating the comments in a more general way, and we decided now at the second meeting here to focus on the question of production and comments. And we looked to focus on the different workplace recuperations. Not because we want to say that other people or other examples are doing something wrong or shouldn't be doing it. I wouldn't even dare to say that, since I'm working in a public university and I have as much participation in the university matters as any worker in a factory, or even less, while what I'm producing is probably even more of surplus value for capitalism than what the worker does. So it's not about criticizing but what we wanted to see is how can we think labor as a common? Does it make sense? And if it's so, how can we find some kind of embryonical or forms of that in something that already exists? And one of the places we think we can find some of the characteristics are the recuperated workplaces. There might be, or there are for sure, characteristics of labor as commons in other initiatives and projects. But we concentrated first now on this to expand from there. So why even think labor as a common? First of all, I think people here come from many different political contexts, and every political context has a different definition of what labor is. So just to make it clear, I'm obviously not talking about wage labor. Wage labor cannot be a common. I'm talking about labor in the most immediate sense that Marx used, that labor is the human activity of doing something that produces some kind of use value. It doesn't even have to be an exchange value, that's a different step. So why think common labor as a commons? Well, first of all, it's obvious that in capitalism, since labor turns into a commodity that can then be bought and sold, the capacity of labor, the labor power, comes only into effect when it's bought. So that means that it's an immense waste of labor power, of human capacity to produce, that it only comes into effect when it's bought or sold, and there is no other mechanism in capitalism to make the existing labor power having a positive effect on society. The second point is that obviously labor is, even if capitalism wants us to believe that labor is some individual capacity, it's obviously not an individual capacity. It cannot exist on its own. It's the consequence of thousands of years of passing capacities, of passing knowledge, of teaching people, of creating together what is needed, etc. So it's another expropriation of society if we we accept labor as a commodity, as in capitalism. And finally, I think it's if we can manage to, like, if capitalism is a long story of commodification of everything, like Wallerstein says, then obviously a program against capitalism has to be a program that is decommodifying most things, like step by step. Since capitalism is built upon the commodification of labor, I think it's very important to think about how can we start decommodifying this central element of capitalism. obviously it's not easy in capitalism, and there will be no total decommodification or total anti-capitalist or non-capitalist thing as long as we have capitalism all around. But nevertheless, we think that it's important to support processes that go in this direction of decommodification, because we cannot be waiting for the day X where then everything will change all at once. And it's obviously difficult to discuss and to see what is a decommodification if we are still in capitalism, and especially if you are producing. You will obviously always have to interact with the market and with the state, which are the two elements that should not be bothered too much if we want to have real commons. But obviously you can't avoid it. So it's, and I think that's the question we have to discuss here and over the next weeks, months and years until we get through and win. But that's the question. So what can it be? What can steps be that create more socialization, that decommodify the single steps, that start giving production and labor as a collective act, also producing different values? And we think that a few, like just to make a few examples, there is obviously a different value production in the recuperated factories. Recuperated factories don't fire people, for example. So that means that obviously there is a different logic of value if you and a different evaluation of what the workplace and what labor is, if problems are not solved by firing people, but people are usually, it's a collective act how to deal with problems and how to find a way out of it. We can see many of the recuperated workplaces where solidarity activities with other workplaces or with other work struggles are part of their working hours in the week. That's obviously also a different value production than in capitalism. The thing that recuperated workplaces build networks and help other new recuperations. That's also something that is obviously based on a different value production, since capitalist enterprises usually don't help other capitalist enterprises in their own sector or in a different sector to survive, but they're happy if they don't exist anymore, so can they take over more market shares. So we have a whole series of features we can observe in recuperated workplaces that without making it absolute, but we could think about, are these steps towards commoning of labor, towards a decommodification of labor, towards the new value production, towards a new understanding of labor as a collective, as a collective product, and therefore as having an importance for society, that it should not be sold nor allocated individually, but also decided collectively how to manage it. And these are all, obviously, I don't want to be telling here like definitive truths, but I'm just talking about ideas and maybe some approaches to think about how we can change this notion of labor that exists in capitalism and step by step come to a different idea. Okay, that's it as an introduction. Thank you very much. I don't know who's now, but we have a series of other interventions.
Thank you.
When will we discuss the contributions?
It's just a point of order just now. I think it's better to tell at the beginning that everybody speaks maximum 8 minutes, because when we do that at the end, it's not okay. Who will rule this question? You? Okay.
So we have like a few interventions that were planned, and after that it's like all debate and discussion. And and again, I mean, we intend to do the interventions all in a way just to put questions into the debate. It's not about I don't know, fighting about different opinions or something, but we think we should try to think about all together with the different inputs without, like, you know, just